there, everybody. Yes, I wanna welcome you to another episode of Getting Stoned with your host, Mr. Stone Batoski. Yes, coming at you live and uninterrupted. Yes. Sending lots of love, lots of good vibes, lots of positivity out to all y'all. I appreciate you being here. Yes. I hope your day is filled with love and light. I hope you know what a miracle you are. What a blessing. Now, sending out a big hug. If you're feeling good, feel that goodness of that hug. If you're feeling funky, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling blue, I hope you feel the love coming right to you. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. We are always in a state of interbeing. So if you're feeling lost and lonely, touch the earth, find some tree that you can sit underneath, gaze up at the stars, and breathe it all in till your heart fills up, and you know that everything is okay. Alan Watts said something like, this, all the anxiety, all the worry makes no difference at all to anything that's going to happen. So put it down. Set all that worry down. Empty your bags of it. Leave it behind. And if you find yourself picking it up again, which invariably you will, remember it ain't going to make a hell of a bit of difference when it comes to anything that's going to happen or not. So just go on ahead and put it down one more time. Yes. All right, that's all I got to say now. I want to jump on into it. This brother, his name is Jim Harrison. He's a writer, fellow Michigander. And he wrote literature, nonfiction, fiction, poetry. The dude was prolific. He was, just someone I've always respected and admired and gained inspiration from. So we're going to read from a collection of his nonfiction titled The Search for the Genuine. This is a essay or a piece from that book called Pie in the Sky. All right, my brother Jim Harrison. Here we go. It starts off with a quote by E.M. Forster. And the quote is, "Only connect." Midwesterners, myself in the main, are over fond of nostrums, no matter how pathetic. Even when we are knee-jerk liberals, people responsive to more than their own bank account, we are chin-up George Babbitts with hope ringing clearly in our hearts on a daily basis. Or nightly, as many of my most radiant plots hatch themselves after midnight, fueled by VO or Cabernet. There is the possibility that we let the field corn grow too close to the house. I think of it as the Bill Moyers syndrome, wherein the most brutish massacre may be thought to show a certain quote, creativity. If Bill Moyers isn't from the Midwest, he should be. In favor of this soft-edged optimism is the idea that if Abe Lincoln had been from New Jersey or Connecticut, we'd never have heard of him. Cynicism breeds wealth and anonymity. So here comes the latest of hundreds of those nostrums. I want to send each member of Congress 4 books. Aldo Leopold Sand County Almanac, Edward Abbey's Desert Solitaire, Gary Snyder's Practice of the Wild, and Peter Matheson's Wildlife in America. If all the members of Congress actually read these 4 books, the entire environmental movement would dissolve because it would no longer be needed. For the first time since we entered World War II, Congress would glow with high intent and clear purpose. The restorative powers of knowledge in these books would be so instantaneous that workers could immediately begin removing the hog troughs from the House and Senate. I have to attribute the giddiness of this past midnight thinking to the full moon and the fact that I had spent the entire day rereading Wildlife in America. Surely among the early and signal books that prodded our consciousness into action in the form of the now somewhat bifurcated environmental movement. The current disarray being caused by the same sort of tribalism that has become a murderous curse throughout the world. We have 100 fully staffed organizations with full agendas, a ghastly word, but next to nothing is being done in the area where everything must begin, habitat restoration. In their defense, there is the modest point that all the good energy is exhausted in trying to attract the attention of the shills who govern us. In fact, most of the 20 million environmentalists, including the portion of hunters and fishermen who are actually conscious, are unaware that they lack the political clout of, say, the top 20 men in mining, timber, ranching, and agribusiness. Wildlife in America is a history of what we have done with our fauna since we got off a succession of rickety craft in the 17th century. It is so gloriously written that it is best read as a bedside book at a chapter a day. A couple of years ago, while we were fly fishing in Costa Rica, Russell Chatham said to me, "There's nothing quite like consciousness," readily admitting that there's a preposterous downside to this condition. Matheson's book is an intensely rough ride for lovers of the outdoors, shimmering with impermanence, but ultimately a grace note in that it confirms what we have always known. We trashed a virtual paradise. It occurred to me that if we collapse Earth's history into 20 hours, we have destroyed most of her bounty in the last few minutes. That admitted what is the process of redemption. I would suggest that we should all be allowed 5 minutes of breast beating after reading Wildlife in America. Then all our options should be considered. There has been a terrifying surge of breastfeeding in America of late. Almost a lust to be a victim of some sort in order to avoid what we have individually and collectively become. But the most severe case of abuse in childhood is the countryside itself. The most difficult thing to get over, perhaps more so for a sportsman who has reached middle age, is the myth of plenitude. When I was very young, my father and I were somewhat embarrassed when we didn't limit out our trout, bass, or bluegills. At least that's the way I remember it. And this memory has probably neglected many ghastly days. It is the myth that fortified our Western movement, the idea that in the territory ahead there were endless fish and game. It was easy to forget that our first closed deer season due to a shortage of the animal was in 1696 in Massachusetts. The bison disappeared from West Virginia in 1825. The elk from Pennsylvania in 1867. The caribou from Maine in 1905. Not to speak of the usual 70 million buffalo, or the perhaps billion passenger pigeons, the very last of which, named Martha, died in 1914 in the Cincinnati Zoo. The ready assumption with migratory game birds was they must have gone somewhere else this year. Matheson quotes William Beebe, who wrote in 1906, "The beauty and genius of a work of art may be reconceived, though its first material expression be destroyed. A vanished harmony may yet again inspire the composer. But when the last individual of a race of living things breathes no more, another heaven and another earth must pass before such a one can be again." This includes the spotted owl, the object of so much ridicule in the timber industry. In our favor, consciousness did arrive, and particularly since the 1940s, we have done more than perhaps any other industrialized country in the world to protect our fish and game populations. The judicial tolerance for rube violations is largely a thing of the past. However, and this is a big one, the game and fish we no longer destroy with careless abandon are still losing ground on a level as grandiose as with earlier depredations. It is as if our judicial system no longer punishes anyone directly, it merely burns down or bulldozes their houses, sterilizes them, and poisons their water supply. The first step in the sportsman-specific penance for having blown it for 300 years is habitat sensitivity and reconstruction. And any sportsman who isn't an environmentalist is morally deeding his grandchildren a Ruhr Valley for a happy hunting ground. We should continue to have faith in favorite organizations, whether it be Trout Unlimited, Greenpeace, the Nature Conservancy, or Earth First. But we must bring it closer to home. Sacrificing an expensive sporting trip to Belize, Christmas Island, Argentina, or wherever in favor of restoring a desecrated local watershed is a good idea. Farmers might think of replanting torn out hedgerows. Oil men of restoring those scalp drilling sites. Country road commissions could stop silting up creeks, and suburbanites could examine their shrubbery and see if it's good for the creature world rather than being merely pretty. And remind the ranchers that surround the wolfless Yellowstone that even Italy tolerates 300 wolves in areas that are also grazed on. The business of public land should not be primarily business. There is nothing more destructive to the quality of sport than its mechanization. The real tonic in these suggestions is that you get to feel something other than frustration over the shabbiness of the political process. There is a real pleasure in getting your hands dirty in your own locale, your own bioregion. When you send a check to your environmental organization, add a note to the effect that you wish they'd all get together before Christmas every year and come up with a common wish list of, say, 7 items. It has been said that if the feminists had stuck together in the 70s, by now they'd have their equal pay for equal work. We desperately need more cohesion in the environmental movement and a great deal less theater, tribalism, and self-aggrandizement. Meanwhile, back to my plot to send Congress the 4 key books mentioned earlier. When I awoke at dawn, or maybe it was mid-morning, I remembered a similar project 10 years before. 3 essential books on the history of Central America, as our behavior down there had been totally misinformed. At the time, I told a prominent senator about the scheme, and he quipped that he was unaware that anyone in Congress read books. There was also the cost estimate of $25,000. A better idea would be to find a relatively barren 40, what Faulkner called the lightless and gutted and empty land, and restore it as much as possible. So I called my handy realtor, and as of press time, I'm on the verge of closing the deal, and I am plotting out what I'm going to plant in my thickets. It will be a 20-year-long welcome party as the land gradually fills with its proper inhabitants. In case you don't know, they belong here as much as we do. Jim Harrison, y'all. Thank you, brother. I don't know, brings to mind so many things. The earth is what makes this all possible, y'all. The sun, the earth, the soil, the rain, the vegetation, the other animals. Let's remember, humans are two-legged animals. You know, that's what we are. We ain't nothing any fancier than that, even though we try to pretend otherwise. Just another animal on this rock, trying to survive, even though we think we own the place. You know, it's like making a mess of the house. It's like, why would you do that? But here we are doing it. Fucking humans, man. I don't understand. I really don't. Let's read a little poetry here. Louise Gluck. This book of poetry I have, it's her complete poems. This book, she was writing poems in 1962 all the way to 2012. I don't even, that's like, how does someone, it's like 50 years, man. Just, yeah. All right, so here we opened up, and this is the first one here we'll read. It's called The Embrace. She taught him the gods. Was it teaching? He went on hating them. But in the long evenings of obsessive talk, as he listened, they became real. Not that they changed. They never came to seem innately human. In the firelight, he watched her face, but she would not be touched. She had rejected the original need. Then in the darkness, he would lead her back above the trees. The city rose in a kind of splendor as all that is wild comes to the surface. Another one. This one's called The Reproach. You have betrayed me, Eros. You have sent me my true love. On a high hill you made his clear gaze. My heart was not so hard as your arrow. What is a poet without dreams? I lie awake. I feel actual flesh upon me, meaning to silence me. Outside, in the blackness over the olive trees, a few stars. I think this is a bitter insult, that I prefer to walk the coiled paths of the garden, to walk beside the river glittering with drops of mercury. I like to lie in the wet grass beside the river, running away, Eros, not openly with other men, but discreetly, coldly. All my life, I have worshipped the wrong gods. When I watch the trees on the other side, the arrow in my heart is like one of them, swaying and quivering. Oh, my goodness gracious, Louise, I could just go on and on and on and read more. So I'm going to read one more. This one's called The End of the World. Terra Nova is the first stanza, let's say. A place without associations, where in the other country there were mountains, so the mind was made to discover words for containment. And so on. Here there was water, an extension of the brilliant city. As for detail, where there had been before nurturing slopes of grass on which at evening or before rain the chalets would lie, the many eyes affixed to the traveler, here there was clay. And yet it blossomed astonishingly beside the house, camellia, periwinkle, rosemary in crushing profusion. In his heart he was a lover again, calling now, now, not restricted to once or in the old days. He lay on his back in the wild fennel, but in fact he was an old man, 60 years old. He took his mother's hand. It was May, his birthday. They were walking in the orchard in the continuous present, gathering apple blossoms. Then she wanted him to watch the sun. They had to stand together as it sank into the possessive earth. How short it seemed, that lifetime of waiting. This red star blazing over the bay was all the light of his childhood that had followed him here. Part 2, the tribute. In that period of strange calm, he wandered down stone steps to the wide harbor. He was moved. The lights of the city moved him deeply, and it seemed the earth was being offered to him as a source of awe. He had no wish to change. He had built his temple, so he justified a need to sacrifice. He leaned against the railing in the dark bay. He saw the city waver. Cells of light floated on the water. They rocked gently, held by white threads. Behind him on the steps, he heard a man and woman arguing with great intensity. In a poem, he could bring them together like two pieces of a broken toy that could be joined again. Then the voices ceased, replaced by sighs, rustlings, the little sounds of which he had no knowledge, though the wind persisted in conveying them to where he stood, and with them all the odors of summer. Part 3, the end of the world. It is difficult to describe coming as it still does to each person at a different time. Unique, terrible, and in the sky, uncanny brilliance substituting for the humanizing sun. So the blessed kneel, the lucky who expect nothing, while those who love the world are returned by suffering to what precedes attachment, namely hatred of pain. Now the bitter are confirmed in loneliness. They watch the winter sun mockingly lower itself over the bare earth, making nothing live. In this light, God approaches the dying. Not the true God, of course. There is no God who will save one man. Louise Gluck. Every time I read her, it takes me out of this world. And that is a beautiful thing. Thank you, Louise. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Well, this is where we would do a song. So let's do a song. So this is one, I've probably done it here. It's an original. So it was inspired by a soldier named Joe Dwyer. You can look him up online if you're interested to learn more about his story. And this song's called Going to War. I joined the army. I took that pledge. A family is poor, can't afford college. Going to fight for the greatest country on earth, land of my father and grandfather's birth. They shipped me up to a desert land and got me excited to kill the Arab man. The shots rang out and the bodies fell. Women and children dead, God, I just got paid from a fourth tour. They say I'm a hero the world over. The doctor says I got PTSD. Everything's so crazy, don't know who to believe. It just keeps getting darker and darker in my head. I wanna leave this world, I wanna get dead. So here I am at the pearly gates with just one question, God, why does man Yeah. Prayers to you, Joel Dwyer. All right, that's a wrap, y'all. Until next time, this is Storm Petoskey saying peace.